glad you're here. Welcome to the 97th interview on this podcast. I'm Esther Buerki, author of Living Without Fear and co-creator of the Amazon bestseller Inspired Journeys. You might be going through something or simply needing a moment to pause, to breathe, to feel seen. Whatever brought you here, we are honored to be with you. And if today's interview speaks to you or brings someone to mind, please pass it on. Let's keep spreading light. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Deborah Weed from the state, from Florida. Deborah Weed is a creative force and founder of the Self-Worth Initiative. Once a corporate high flyer, a health crisis left her bedridden until a rare penny sparked a mission to prove that even what seems worthless has deep value. Through books, musicals, and stories like The Luckiest Penny and Paisley the Musical, Deborah helps children and adults rediscover their worth through creativity, play, and hope. Welcome to the show, dear Deborah.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So let's start with my favorite question. What has been your turning moments in life?
Well, for me, it was rather rough. I had started out when I was young, they would say, "Oh, you're too sensitive. You're too sweet." So as I got older, I was like, "I'll show you." And I ended up being the director of development for Citibank, 19 branches. And I had also worked on a $26 million pavilion with Disney and Universal Consultants. So I thought I had it all, right? I thought I had it all until I had this mystery health challenge that took me literally down. The pain that I felt was like giving birth every day. It was absolutely excruciating. And I was weak beyond belief. I could hardly get my head up. So I went from this top of the line career to all of a sudden not knowing what was happening to me. And I went to doctor, and the first doctor said to me, "You have MS." And then the second doctor said, "You have Lou Gehrig's." And then the third doctor said, "It's all in your head." Now, I know after COVID, so many people are going through things where they don't have clear answers. And so I'm speaking to you if that's you, because not knowing was the worst. And the fact that each doctor had a different diagnosis for me, it's not like I could come to my family with understanding. They did, for a while they were behind me and they loved me and they supported me. But, after a while it was like, Deborah, if so many people are saying different things, then it must be in your head. Now, from somebody who prides herself on doing the best to always tell the truth, it was devastating. And I lost not only my physical health, but I started to lose my way totally. And while I was in bed, feeling devastated, this started out from a stretch from months now to years, and I'm still in bed, incapable of getting up. But one of the things that I had done is, ever since I was 16, is put together musicals and books. And it was my imagination, because I couldn't do anything else, and because I was desperate and just feeling so lonely, it was like my imagination and creativity was the only thing that was speaking to me. And a penny saved my life. So let me tell you kind of how, and then I'll tell you what they found out after 3 years of being in bed. I heard while I was in bed or read about a penny A 1943 pure copper penny that could be worth $1 million. Now, to think that a penny that's pretty much worthless could be worth that much got me thinking, because I felt at that point totally, totally worthless. Even though I knew something would, like it was so bad that I'd actually have my husband take me to the hospital parking lot, sit there just in case I died. It was that bad. But to find out that this penny meant that much, it was like, wow, maybe I am worth something. Maybe I should fight for my life regardless of what, of abandonment, whatever transpired. So with this penny, 1943 penny, I came up with the idea of writing a book about two pennies in an auction, one who's perfect, pristine, never been touched. And he thinks and believes that he's worth $1 million. And another penny felt like me. The penny had been in the garbage can. He'd been on the street alone. He'd been somebody's lucky penny. He'd been in the washing machine. And both of these pennies are at an auction and they're going to find out how much they're worth and why. And so at least I had that. I had that imagination going to start to create a book. Well, going back to the doctor situation, this is a trigger warning. I had been bleeding a lot. And they had said, for a woman, a lot of times they say, well, it's perimenopause and, that can happen. But it turns out that I had a fibroid tumor the size of a grapefruit behind my uterus, laying on my spine. So every time to try to go to the bathroom would be that feeling of excruciating pain. And because I had been bleeding so much, my iron was between a 3 and a 6. It was a very obvious thing to find, and they could have found it immediately. But because nobody looked in the most obvious place, the place that I had complained about first, they were giving me all these diagnoses. And during that time, the pain was so bad, I didn't want to live anymore. Between the physical and the mental pain. But from that experience, I became the founder of the Self-Worth Initiative and started creating musicals and books for children and their families so that they could believe in themselves.
Wow. Wonderful. I'm so happy you got out of your bed and your pain. They were beautiful. And you told me there have been other difficult turning moments.
Yeah, it seems like health in me. It seems like I get the mystery things. And I truly, truly believe, like I've been praying lately a lot and saying, why did all this happen when all I've ever wanted to do is make a difference in the world? And I think that a friend gave me the answer because one time I came to her and I was like, but I wanted to be an angel on earth. And she said, but angels have to know what a person goes through to become an angel. How could you understand or help anybody unless you profoundly understand? So, with that said, the next thing what happened when I was in bed for 3 years is I also had a doctor who did a chiropractic move because I didn't know what was going wrong, right? You go everywhere, anywhere to get better. And he did one of these things where he did my head really fast. And at C2 in my neck is a dissection. It looks like a little bubble. And every time I move my neck, I would start to faint. And they said I could die at any moment because it was like at C2 if I moved my head a certain way. But the doctor thought it was too high to put in a stent. So I kind of have been living with that quote unquote time bomb, but I'm still here. I'm still here all this time. But my husband and I traveled, we decided to travel around the country, sell all of our things, put our suitcases in the car and travel around the country. But I was going down trails, right? And I wanted to make sure that my neck was okay. So I went to the hospital to get what they call an MRA. and an MRA is where they, could see what's going on. And the nurse missed my vein, and she put the gadolinium, which is kind of like a very highly toxic material, into my arm instead of into my vein. And once again, it was like this mystery thing where they don't tell you when you leave the hospital, hey, I just put a very toxic nuclear chemical into your body that you won't be able to get out. And so I got deathly sick, and the same kind of thing happened from this. But this is another kind of interesting story in the interim. I went to an acupuncturist, and when I went to the acupuncturist, he was putting needles in me, right? Putting needles in me. But he said, Deborah, I don't think this is ever going to heal you. It's not going to work. The only thing that's going to work for somebody like you is to take improv classes. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Improv classes. I can't even, again, get out of bed, walk, function. He's like, yes, but I think that this is going to be your way to healing. Now, so many people who have had gadolinium poisoning, they never get up again. That's it. They're done because it destroys so much of the inside of their bodies. But it was true. I started to laugh and to laugh, and the laughing brought me back, even though my husband practically had to carry me to those. And then with the Self-Worth Initiative, I wrote my next book. And it was about a little porcupine who dreams of being in the fashion industry. But in the animal fashion industry, you have to use your quills to go ahead and pin up the couture designs of this kind of evil diva couture designer that I created. And the reason that I wrote that book was because I had given my power away so many times. And it breaks my heart. And I was like, I have to do something. So this story is kind of an anthem for little girls at that time, little girls and boys, of not to give your power away. But what I discovered in that time period was that many mothers were like, we love this story because we give our power away and we have to be reminded to keep our quills up and protect ourselves. So I have been now creating a full-scale musical based on the book that I think will be tremendously magical. So that's the second thing. I have one more, but we don't need to go there.
Keep on going, Deborah.
Oh, geez. Okay, I've never done all three. This is a lot. So then I pick myself up again with creativity, making a difference, feeling like, okay, man, at least I'm living. I have chronic pain that will probably never go away, but at least I can be the angel, whatever you want to call it, the person that can make a difference in the world until COVID hits. And then when COVID hits, three things happened. Our condo got tons of mold in it, and I took a black box antibiotic, and I want to talk a little bit more about that because you had asked. And I also took the vaccine. And those three things, maybe because of the gadolinium, maybe because of the tumor before, but it really took me down once again. So there is this thing called Floxed. And what it is so many women are given black box antibiotics when they have a UTI or a sinus infection. And the black box means very dangerous. In fact, the antibiotic they gave to me was an antibiotic that was really used as chemotherapy a long time ago. And it like tore up my body and it messes up your muscles. So once again, it's like I have to reinvent myself. And each of these times, the only thing that brought me back is creativity and the passion to want to take the pain and everything that's transpired in my life and make it better, even if it's just for one person. That's my mission.
So, Deborah, you told me at the beginning of our conversation that you had a beautiful father who told you a lot about fear, and I'd love you to share this here also with our audience.
Yeah, my dad was absolutely amazing. He was unlike any other dad, I think. Anyways, there was a time that I had come home and I had been in really, really big trouble. And it was at that time, positive thinking was all the rage, and it still is, but it really was big back then. And I went in front of the mirror and I looked at myself and I was like, Deborah, you're beautiful. I did everything that I was told to do. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. You've got this. But the girl staring back at me in the mirror, she had empty eyes, dull hair, really, really unhappy, not believing anything she was saying. So I went to my dad and I was like, Dad, I'm trying this positive thinking, but it's not working for me. And he was like, well, it's because thinking is static. It's static. So I'm going to give you a challenge. And here's the challenge. The first week, I want you to go and I want you to think positive all that you can. And the second week, I want you to go out and I want you to get your hair done and I want you to get a dress and I want you to do things that are like out there. And I'm like, but Dad, I don't feel like it. And he's like, but that's exactly right. It's a feeling, and feelings change every minute. So after he gave me the challenge, I did what he said. The first week, I'm like trying with the positive thinking the best that I can. Nothing's happening. And then the second week, I did what he said. And little by little, I started to look in the mirror and I was like, oh, I do look better because it was real for me. And when I got the dress, it was like, I do feel better because it was real for me. And that was one thing that my dad taught me, but he taught me so much more.
And when you feel fearful today, how do you cope with your fear, Deborah?
Well, this is one thing that I've had to look in the face a lot is fear. And for so long, I tried to make it go away and not feel it. Because especially people who are so-called spiritual or in the light, we're supposed to be over that. It's supposed to be all about love, right? Not about fear. So I would move as far away from fear as I possibly could. But now as I've been going through life and learned so much, I'm a grandma now, I actually allow myself to feel it fully and actually ask myself where it's coming from and be with that small little girl who's so frightened. And then thank you that right now I have enough self-love. Not always, I didn't always have that, but I have enough self-love that I can comfort myself and just allow that. And then come up with a counterbalance, a thing like creativity or something that I can do that tempers some of that energy.
Beautiful. And what would you recommend to our audience? I mean, you have found your creativity, but maybe not everybody is feeling creative. What would you think?
Well, first of all, I am holding your hand and I care profoundly. That's the first thing that I have to say because sometimes no words mean anything because you're just in survival mode. And boy, oh boy, do I get that. So, one of the things that I've been practicing and I think is the most important is self-love. Because when you're in fear a lot, there's shame. There was so much shame in me when I was going through what I was going through because, I didn't know physically what was wrong with me with that tumor until they figured it out. And and when you get rejected by other people because you don't even have the words to protect yourself, going back to the protection, then the best thing that you can do, if it's at all possible, is just put your hand on your heart and just know that somehow, some way, some shape that you're worth it. And that maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to take your story or whatever's transpiring to become more whole. Because in reality, what healing is, when you look it up in the dictionary, because I did, it means whole, which means that every part of you needs to be loved, even the part you hate the most.
That's so true. It sounds so easy.
It is not easy. It's sometimes you have to just cry through it. But that's, once again, I need to emphasize that for me, when I'm before I used to feel like if I cried, I would die. That's what it felt like. Like if I cried, I would die. So I avoid the, stuff the feelings, avoid the feelings, do something else totally to get away from the feelings. But now I realize that when you feel it fully, and I don't know why, it's almost magical. It hurts, but it does seem to dissipate. And maybe it's because it's literally starting to be like the ethers that get out of your body rather than the boulder that stays in.
Mm. And what I experienced was that I expected so much from me, and I thought, if I cannot deal with my fear in the moment, how shall I live the next 10 years, 20 years? And when I started just doing the work, which I mean just to go feel into myself, and just for the day or for the hour or for the 15 minutes I was in, and just take this little part, something shifted in me, because seeing the whole future in front of me made me more fearful.
Oh, that is so true. I mean, like when you have, or I should speak for myself, when I have something chronic and you don't know, it's like, is it going to get back? I used to be addicted to problem solving, truly, because I felt like, well, if I can solve this problem, I won't have the fear, right? I won't have the fear. If I can figure out what's wrong, then I can tell somebody, this is how you can help me, take care of me, right? But in the solving the problem and solving the problem and solving the problem and solving the problem, I was literally amping up fear without even knowing it,
Mm.
rather than being able to sit with it going, today, right now, it feels like this is never ever going to go away and it's never going to get better. And sometimes, that's I've had long stretches where it felt that way. But somehow, when you're able to allow those feelings, it's almost because you're not, and no longer trying to solve the problem, but just trying to do what makes you happiest in that moment. And it might be, well, I can't get up, but you can play music. Well, I can't get up, but you can watch maybe a sitcom that you like. But I can't get up, but I can love that person who means something to me. Like the common denominator of those things that mean the most to us can still be relevant in our lives. And sometimes, I hate to say it, sometimes that's enough to get us through those dark days.
Yeah, and tell maybe ourselves it's just today, and tomorrow it can change. There might be a total change in whatever I'm experiencing today. So,
And it's hard to believe, right?
mm,
Granted, it's so hard to believe, but I've had that happen to me so many times. I used to think when things were really, really rough, it will never get better. I've seen the world. I've seen everything. I know what's going to happen. Guess what? I don't know what's going to happen because I never, ever thought that from that pain and everything else that I'd be, writing so many books, doing musicals, touching lives, getting out there, and now working on a major musical.
Yeah, so beautiful. I'm so happy, Deborah, that you could share all your turning moments and about how you deal with fear nowadays. Is there some little or big thing you'd like to add at the end of the conversation?
I would. It's one other thing that my dad said to me that I think might be helpful, and that is that another when I was in bed, stuck in bed, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I've inspired so many people to do so many things. And look, they're out there, they're in the world, they're passionate, and I'm stuck in bed. What is going on? I mean, I'm so happy for them, but I want to be that. So my dad said to me, he said, get a glass container of water and some food dye. I'm like, Dad, I'm telling you something big and you're telling me to get a bowl of water. But anyways, I did what he said. And he asked me to put 3 drops of food dye into the water. So I did. And he asked me to stir it. So I did. I had picked blue. So all the water is blue now. And he said, okay, my beautiful daughter, now go and get those 3 drops of blue that you put in the water. I'm like, but Dad, that's impossible. And he's like, exactly. Just like you inspired those people in your life, there's 3 blue drops of you in them. And it can never be replaced. You'll always be part of anything that they do. And whatever they contributed to you, there's blue drops in you. And they'll always be a part of you. And somehow, that made a huge difference in my life. Where at least I felt like, wow, even though I'm in bed, not able to do anything, it's not true. Every person I've touched is out there, and I'm a part of that whole continuum.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you, dear listener, for spending your precious time with us today. You're amazing, and you're a gift to everyone who crosses your path. And if no one has told you this today, let us say it again. You're worthy, you deserve to be loved, and you matter. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you next week.